here and women here, but some of you might have brought friends. My mother went into labor 10 days before I was born. I could not get out of there in time. I did everything possible. First of all, I went to the hospital. Oh, I wanted to be near my mother. Please, that's not that funny. And she had, just before I was delivered, she had broken a huge stack of, the 78 records. The 78 records are very breakable. These things, they're made on Bakelite plastic. They're very breakable things. They crash and bam, they're gone. You don't even know it, and it's just nothing playable. This is the thing we used to wind up the Victrolas, and you'd fling the little sharpened bamboo point onto the thing, jumping up and down with it, and then they would go like that, and the machine would go, it's like the old movies. You don't remember this, unless you're as old as I am. Which is like, you dimly remember having been chased by a Brontosaurus on the one side, a raptor on the other side, an Eohippus underneath you, and you're riding down to it. Well, anyway, where was I going with that? You're as old as I am, and you will remember. Alright, class, there's going to be a smart quiz right after this little film we'll be seeing. This is a film about hygiene and about a subject that we all need to know about. Roll it, please. Lights! Can you get that thing started? That was my education. I don't know about you, but that's all I ever saw was those films. And most of what I answered back was equivalent to... So I'm thinking to myself, I'm thinking, 2 days. I missed it by 2 days. I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And sure enough, I pushed just a little too hard. So I went, like that, and stumbled over the stack of 78 records and smashed every single one of them. Now, some people say that when events occur in utero like that it profoundly affects the child. Well, then you tell me, how come that accident, which was so profound, did not affect me? Kind of like my Uncle Harry. My Uncle Harry went to a brothel one day. He was 97 years old. He walks into the brothel. He says, "I'd like sex, please, and here's my money." And the madam looks at him and says, "How old are you?" He says, 97. She says, "Honey, you had it." He says, "How much do I owe you?" Yes, I think I walked into, this is another thing, this is a story that his same situation, actually. So Harry went to another doctor. He was having some problems. He was having some problems with, well, to be frank about it, I mean, we're living in an age now of frankness, of sexual frankness. So I just wouldn't tell you what happened, but he had sort of like multicolored things coming out of his penis. Just kind of dripping out, it wasn't very much, it wasn't very, noticeable. He could walk around all right. He wore some, dainties or Pampers. He was all right, but it was multicolored. I mean, we're talking about the whole, rainbow of colors. So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says to him, he says, "What can I do for you?" He says, "Well," he says, I have this stuff oozing out. He says, let me take a look. He says, He says, Doc, can you tell me what? Can you just tell me what it is? He says, well, I'll tell you what's happening. He says, first of all, he says, we're going to have to amputate it. What? We're going to have to amputate it. He says, why? He says, well, obviously, he says, you've got some sort of venereal disease. He says, were you with anybody recently? He says, well, yes, I was. I was with a Chinese woman about a week and a half ago in Hong Kong. He says, he says, why did you do this? He says, you got it in Hong Kong. Why don't you go back to Hong Kong, see if any Hong Kong doctor knows what to do for this stuff? Because frankly, I had no idea. I didn't make up with the office. He goes to Hong Kong, flies to Hong Kong, totally nervous wreck. He flies to Hong Kong, oh my God, he gets on the plane, give me a martini, and he drinks the martini down, and then land, he can't land fast enough. He gets into a cab, and he finds the nearest doctor in Hong Kong, knocks on beaded curtain. Come in, he says, the doctor. He says, thank you. He says, Doc, I'm having some problems with my penis. He says, oh, drop your pen. Let me take a look. So he drops his penis, and he says, I'll take the box of shorts. He says, I want you to take a look at this, Doc. He says, oh, not for long. What happened anyway? He said, I was with a young lady a little while ago, and this happened. And he said, did you see a doctor? I said, yes, I saw an American doctor. He said, what did the American doctor say? He said, the American doctor said that it has to be amputated. You're crazy. That thing better fall off itself in a few days. Actually, I was just joking, but that didn't really happen. So what actually happened to Harry was he went to a doctor. Oh, wait. He went to the doctor. Some of you are just getting the last one. So, went to the doctor, and he said, there's something oozing out of my penis. The doctor said, well, let me take a look at it and see what happens. Oh my God, he said, you've had sex recently? At the age of 97, he said, you've had sex recently? He said, yes, I have. And he says, do you happen to know the name of the woman that you had sex with? Let me see this woman. Yes. Do you know where your sex partner lives by any chance? He said, yes, I do. Well, get over there fast, man, you're coming. Of course, it's bad enough when you get those enlarger peenie emails. 500 of them a day. And it's hard as hell to answer that many. I loved combat training. I tell you, I loved combat training. You rip a lot of dresses. You tear through a hell of a lot of hose. You're going to be picking brambles out of your hair forever and forget wearing earrings on the combat course. But I managed to do things like, we had something, I noticed you've been looking at this, probably, because it's shiny, you know? Descendants like shiny things. No, the reason you've been looking at this is because, as you probably are aware, this is one of those, this is a Shanghai, it's called a Shanghai bracelet. This actually is this is what they call a shiki, because it's like that. I don't dare actually fling this out at you because it explodes on contact. Sometimes it explodes while I'm wearing it. My friends, my family are all Polish, and I would be with them right now. They're marching, they're pissed, and they're marching on Washington. Even now as we speak, they're only 10 miles out of Seattle. Yeah, we're going to get ours. I'll tell you, we're going to get our rights. Polish jokes. I never heard these such things. Polish jokes, ridiculous Polish jokes, terrible Polish jokes. It's awful. My uncle, Harry, when he was in his 30s, was an officer in the Polish army. One day he was walking home. He happened to encounter a beautiful young woman. They walked home together. They spoke as they walked. They walked for a long, long time across the city of Warsaw. Almost an hour, 2 hours walking. Just in the moonlight. Beautiful. And they finally get to his place. They go in. And they sit and talk some more. And things are very romantic. He puts on some music. And they make love. In the morning they wake up. And she says, as is her custom, what about money? And he said, I'm sorry, a Polish officer never accepts money. I want to tell you about a very fabulous comedian. You'd think it was a new comedian, but he isn't a new comedian at all. He's been around for a lot of years, but he's just now getting recognition that he should get, and that's Eddie Izzard. Fabulously funny, British comedian. Give him a hand. One of the things he does, however, I don't want to talk about him. I don't want to say anything bad about him, but listen. I don't talk about people, but I will tell you about people who do. Yeah, so Eddie Izzard has a thing where he has his Church of England, and Church of England is like they offer, like their level of the Inquisition is cake or death. And he goes to this whole routine of cake or death, and people prefer, I'll take cake, I'll take it, give him cake, I'll take it, all right, you'll have cake too, so on and so on and so on. He ignores the obvious, which is that someone is going to be a pig and say, I'll take both. Yeah, some of us are too smart for our own good. There's a number of people like that. My friend Jose Velasquez was one of those characters. He was one of these guys, first of all, he came from a very tiny island in just off of Florida. Enough off of Florida to be able to make it in a tiny raft, which he did with his parents. They came to Miami, and he grew up to become a stone kicker. This is one of those kids who, when he's gone to school, first of all, he walked barefoot. Jose walked barefoot to school 2 miles every day. When he did, as he did, he would just casually kick a stone every couple of paces. So by the time he'd gone about 3 or 4 clicks, he was kicking hundreds and hundreds of stones. And he got to be so amazing. He would kick a stone up in the air and knock a bird out of the sky. It was amazing. Of course, this is the kind of guy who used to shoot the dead branches out of his trees in the front of his house. But he walked around barefoot all the time, always going, no matter where he was, downtown Miami, Mama they call it, downtown Miami, he was walking around in his bare feet. He'd be standing there, this guy's a little tiny guy, barely speaks English, just enough to understand exactly what it is his quarterback wants of him. What he wanted me to do, he told me once. I said, Jess, I try to kind of get into the cadence when I'm in Germany. I try to talk like this and I try to start the sentence from the back and work my way to the front. And like we always do on those occasions, we remember to put the verb after we have already expressed ourselves and made you hungry for what's going to go on next. We finally tell you what. However, if I'm talking with the French, it depends. Sometimes I'm talking to the French like that. If I talk to the French like that, then you can bet I'm talking to the Québécois, Eh bien, tabarnouche. You can't fool me. Well, maybe. No. So, Jose, I want to tell you about Jose. Well, but actually, I should tell you about this friend of mine who was from Newfoundland. I'm just taking a moment. It's not that he's dead, he's from Newfoundland. So we should all pause. Let's all take a moment. Each of you take a moment. I'm so finished. So, that's a That's a Yiddish word. You know, like, you'd be amazed about the number of people who speak Yiddish in France. I was just talking about the French. Well, Québécois, never mind that. I'm talking about the French now. This is the way French. These are the ones that say, the people who don't live in Paris are not French. They need their fucking passport to get into this town. As far as I'm concerned, if they live anywhere near Rouen, they are American. And should be treated accordingly. Which is to say, what one does is simply spit in front of the person and say, fuck you. That is what the French say to Americans. They don't like Americans. That's the fact, Jack. They don't like Americans. But I tell you what they do like. They like fromage. And they like their vin. North Vineyard. That's the cheese. I don't know. Anyway, it's just... So my friend Jose he was in the United States for the very first time. He had no money. He had absolutely not a penny on him. He's standing around with his boxer shorts and his tank top t-shirt. This is all he's got left, and he's got across the border, and he's managed to hawk everything, including his Farmer John overalls. And this guy was right down to nothing. And somebody told him, why don't you relax, go see a baseball game? So he says, that would be wonderful, but I don't have the money. How can I get into the baseball game? Man, you're very skilled at climbing. Climb up the outside of the building, and nobody's going to look up. And they're not going to expect this. And get up there, get up on a flagpole, for God's sake. Check out the game from Tony. It's like you're on the Zeppelin, the blimp, for God's sake. You'll have a great time. You'll have a fantastic time. The building goes up to the top of the flagpole. And he told me later, he says he couldn't believe how hospitable Americans are. How really caring they are. They all turned before the game started. They turned toward him and they said, Jose, can you see? Yeah, but Jose was a friend of mine. He was a very nice guy. But my friend from Newfoundland, he was a wonderful fisherman. He actually fished offshore, but deep sea. Remember, we actually caught some sea bass. He had a boat called the Sea Witch 3. The Sea Witch 3. He had a little model of it on his desk too. And a number of folks used to fish. He was a fantastic fisherman. But in the winter time, he and his friends would go out on the ice and they'd cut a little hole in the ice. I don't know if you ever see this. It's called ice fishing. Cut a little hole in the ice. A little tiny hole, just enough to get the line down and to get the fish out. I mean, they're not very optimistic. The size of these holes is very, very small. They're not expecting a seal or anything. At least they weren't before that time. Anyway, so they drop the line down and then they sit there with these things, lines, just kind of, it's not cold. No, I'm not going to get out there in that cold on the ice and sit there with my bum on some box and freeze my ass off. You don't have to worry, we built a huge bonfire out there. You build a bonfire on the ice and you sit on the ice, so you're warm with the bonfire and the ice is cold and you're fishing in the, fine, that's great. So, my friend is out there, and his name was Herbert. It might still be. I haven't checked yet. I haven't gone online to find out if Herbert is still alive. You can do that. You can see who is alive and dead. See, who'saliveanddead.com. I'm not kidding. I'm serious. Who's alive, who's dead.com. Go there and look. You'll see. You can actually find out who's dead and who's alive. I didn't even know that. I had no idea. I've been dead 14 years. Well, that's no big deal. When Mozart was my age, I've been dead 27 years. Yeah, if you figure that one out, you're good. It isn't funny, it just sounds funny. It's the delivery. I'm telling you, it's all about the delivery. Guy goes into a shop, to a barber shop. He wants a haircut. He goes in there, he says, I want a haircut. And I'm exhausted. I've been driving all night. I finally got here. I'm doing a gig in this town. I'm supposed to perform tonight. I want a great haircut. What kind do you want? Says the barber. He says, I want a Robert Redford kind of haircut. He says, no problem, you got it. He says, lie down and relax. Puts a hot towel, he goes to sleep. An hour later he wakes up, he looks in the mirror. He says, not just bald, it's been shaven right down to the scalp. There's not a shred of hair left on the scalp. He said, you son of a bitch, I asked you for a Robert Redford. Look what you did to me. He says, I gave you a Robert Redford. You never saw Robert Redford. He says, I did. I saw him every week in Kojak. Yeah. So anyway, he's sitting there and ice fishing. My friend is sitting there, Herbert, he's ice fishing. And he's singing, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Now, as he's singing, unbeknownst to him, to any one of us at that time, none of us were particularly aware of this kind of thing going on. Then now, of course, it's different. A UFO had poised itself approximately 650 feet above our heads. We, at that time, did not notice this thing, although it was obvious later. Suddenly, emerging from it came a ray of light. I knew in an instant what was happening because I had known the gray aliens before. They were reducing the intelligence of my poor friend Herbert by 50% every time that ray hit. And it hit once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, until finally the last radiation, and he was down to 0 intelligence. Nevertheless, he was able to continue his ice fishing. However, he was now singing, Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques. Yeah, but you know, Yiddish in French is amazing. Remember about the Yiddish and French thing? Remember, we came back to that now. We're back in, I don't know things. So, most people don't know about this. Most Americans don't even know that France exists. But the French don't even necessarily know their history. And there was a very, very famous family called the Rothschild family. Did you ever hear that? Rothschild family. The Rothschild. And the Rothschild family, they had wonderful vineyards, wonderful famous vineyards. Well, they were bankrupt. A couple of 100 years ago, they went bankrupt. Not to worry, they married into Jewish money. So, it's true. This is all true. A couple of years, this is like 1792, big thing happened. A lot of people, kind of got a little bit, carried away. They kind of acted out. And a lot of people went to the guillotine, which was okay. Could be worse. Could be worse. Could be raining. Yeah, it's raining. You're going to the guillotine, and it's raining. What the fuck more can happen? You get up on the scaffold, then you're going to lean over and put your head underneath the goddamn blade. You know what that thing is up there, but no, you're going to voluntarily do that. No, if you don't voluntarily do that, you're going to be a chicken shit. You're going to be known as a chicken shit and die a chicken shit. Yes, that's right. So that's Marie St. Chicken Shit. That's who that is. Marie the Chicken Shit. No. Marie Antoinette, she goes to her death absolutely calm and relaxed. And they asked her, they said, would you like a cigarette? She says, no, thanks, I'm trying to quit. You know why we are assassinating you? You know why I'm killing you, don't you? She says, no, I don't know why. Well, because you have mistreated the peasants. And now the peasants are revolting. She says, I've always found them to be revolting.
You're back.
I'm back. Cochon. That's true, but I'm the Bosch. And the Bosch make fun of the French. Yeah, so a bit like the Italians, you know. That's when I'm with a friend who's Italian, I don't talk like that because I know that every Italian inside wants to really sound like Chico Marx. Hey, that's a nice sound. That's a sound pretty good. Just Chico Marx. To Americans, Chico Marx sounds Italian. To Italians, Chico Marx sounds American. That's so funny. No, listen, I don't care who you are. That's so funny. That's better. Let me catch you not laughing again, okay? Right. I got a couple of saves, but I thought that would be better. All right. So, it's amazing. It's amazing. So the Rothschild family married into the Jewish money family, very, very moneyed and very, very, in the Jewish community, a very aristocratic family, relatively speaking, considering that they weren't allowed to own property or to actually operate a shop or to go to school or to, you know. So kind of like, well, they lived in the ghetto, but in the ghetto they were really big. You know what I mean? Really big. I mean, I'm not really big. I'll tell you a story for a moment. Just remind me what I was talking about in a second. I'll just tell you this story, this wonderful story. I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story that happened in 1969, a story that has not been told to the American public, nor in fact, indeed, anyone in the world. Yes. You probably are aware that NASA launched a moon vehicle in 1969, and that supposedly United States astronauts actually walked on the moon's surface. Now you've heard the rumor that this was actually staged in Burbank, and that it was actually something in NBC Studios in Burbank, and that it was actually a fake. It wasn't a fake. It was not a fake. We know now, we see lots of evidence that they were actually out there. And yes, in 1969, was it Neil Armstrong? Walked on the moon. And he said, as he landed, he said, holy shit, this thing is soft. He said, Neil, can you try that again for the cameras? What did I say? Why don't you say, one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. That's good. Okay, we'll do that real tonight. Whoa! This is jumping up and down and bouncing around on the camera and fooling around, and suddenly he grabs himself. The camera's just aimed right at him like this. He grabs himself like this by the side. He goes, just joking. And it goes back to the 1920s. Okay, so at the end of which you lie down in front of a portal of some kind and drag yourself off, you know, so the feet look like so, gosh, what was I telling you? I lost it completely.
On the moon. Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong, yeah, thank you. Neil Armstrong, gosh, so Neil Armstrong, there he was on the surface of the moon, he's bouncing around the surface of the moon, and this kind of, and he climbs up, and he's going to try a second try. So he jumps off, whoa, down. He's lands on the surface of the moon, and he says, just like they said, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. One small step for man, you asshole. Sorry, I can't hear you. I say you asshole. No, I heard that. Yeah, so you know this because it's just been released. Check the NASA site. See if I'm wrong. See if I'm lying. Go to the NASA site and you will see it says there that Neil Armstrong, this is the first time it's been released. This week is the first time it's ever been released. This whole thing is brand new to the media. They did not know this. They did not know this. I knew it because I was a member of the agency that was involved in this. As you know. As well, you know. Yeah, so the fact is that Neil Armstrong actually encountered not just life on the moon. The moon is airless. The moon has not just airless, it has no atmosphere whatever. But inside the moon they found atmosphere, they found water, they found civilization. Millions and millions of moonbeams. Moonbeams, not beams. Snap out of it. It's not going to be that easy. This is the Bardo. Snap out of it. So he meets these beautiful moonbeings, and these moonbeings, these moon creatures, they're only about not that big. They're like an inch and a half, tall. One is like 2 inches tall. That's their foot. They're basketball players. And then the ones that like a pinky like that, they're considered cute. The ones with like a thumb like that, those are their blocks and their tackles. A tackle, you know what that is? It's 400 pounds of beef in front of a 125-pound quarterback. Do you know what that must feel like? Do you know what Jose, who was a kicker, you know what he must have felt like standing there and watching the equivalent of 14 rhinoceroses within inches of his face? And he's got to kick a ball over their faces, over their heads, over their hands, which are as large as he is. Some twice as large as he is. Rosie Greer, I actually shook hands with Rosie Greer, and I got lost in his fist. I don't know how he could crochet, but he did. He actually crocheted with hands the size of my head. I can't crochet with hands the size of my hands. I got smart. I got smaller hands. I don't have them on today. I know that. I don't wear them for every occasion, I bet you thought that this and this were costume. They're not. The rest is. Yeah, I stopped off in Wardrobe, picked this up on the way, and then I put a dress on it. Should have used, there could have been some kind, does anybody have a drum set? Can you give me some kind of, thank you. Okay, I'll leave that for the sound engineer to deal with. Okay, so where was I? I don't know. If I don't know, how do you know? My God, I'm lost, and I'm asking you for help. You just got here. I've been here all the time. I don't mean here, I mean here. Well, not here exactly, but, here. No, not here. Wait, let me see if I can get this exactly right. Here. That's it. And this thing works just fine. Yep, it's working. So, there I was. Oh, nuts. Hang on a second. Whoa! I don't know. This thing doesn't seem... Oh, there it goes. That's better. By golly. I feel normal now. Let's see if I can get the face working right. Uh-oh. I have a feeling. Is it loused up? Is it a law? Is that better?
No.
There! Never felt better. More relaxed in my life. Oh, this is marvelous. Just a moment. I must tell you about Lord Balderdash. Lord Balderdash was Horace's favorite character. He used to play Lord Balderdash. And one of the things he did was he made himself look like Margaret Court. Before he did this, he'd take his I don't have to, because I can do this without using. He'd take his dry hand, he'd take a little wipe under his upper lip, and he'd do this. Now I can just keep it like that. You know, if I do this, I'm Margaret Court, but I take a little bit further, I'm Liberace, and a little further than that, and I'm Carol Burnett. Hi everybody, Carol Burnett saying, well, hello, Dolly. And now, by the way, this also translates over to Lord Balderdash. Lord Balderdash was so British you couldn't understand him at all, even if you were British. They came running over to me one day. He said, my God, man, you just shot my wife. I said, I'm very, very sorry, Lord Balderdash. How much shot is mine over there? See, Lord Balderdash returns. He returns from 2 weeks on the continent. He comes back to his palatial estate, and he comes to his wife, and he says, darling, he says, how are things? Haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, how are things? She shouts back over the distance of the morning coffee table. She says, hello, darling, is that you? I don't know, the morning papers have been piling up, and I didn't know whether or not. It seemed like you were. Odd. So you're just back now? Interesting. I just noticed in the papers that the East Wing apparently burned down last night. Yes, dear. Well, so did anything unusual happen? Well, yes, as a matter of fact, there was a burglary last week while you were gone. Oh, did he get anything? I'll say he did. I thought for several hours he was you. So Lord Balderdash, you know, he was in his 90s at one point. He wakes up in the morning and he happens to have an erection. This is something of a miracle. So as he's standing there and he's admiring this erection, this marvelous erection, and this valet walks in. I says, oh, sir, I see you're up today. Yes, he says, my John Thomas seems to be ready for a bit of action. Oh, shall I fetch the missus? No, fetch me my baggy twigs. I'll smuggle this one into town. Do you ever do that when you were at school? They took me away. They took me, no, they did. They took me, I was going, do-da, wow. And they took me to the principal's office. The principal said, what did you think you were doing? And I said, well, I was going to do-da. How do you do that? Or two of us walking, my science teacher walks, he says, what are you doing? I'm teaching him how to do this. How do you do that? So my science teacher starts with do-da. There's three of us and we're doing do-da. And in walks the grammar, the English teacher, a couple of other people. What are you doing? I'm saying to do that. We all standing there. Finally, my teacher walks in, from my homeroom, walks in, and sees us all doing this. And says, I give up. How do you do that? Do-da, like this. So you should learn that, because eventually someday, under some circumstance, some bizarre set of circumstances, you will be asked, can you do this? And you'll have to say no.
Could happen.
This is the trip. You want to try this, but you don't want to try this at home. Like that. If you do this properly, if you do this right, like this. This is the inspiration for Spock, you know that? Did you know that? This is the inspiration for Spock. Be here now, whatever he's, be here occasionally. Today, oh, it's a new thing, by the way, Ram Dass. Oh yeah, Ram Dass. Did you hear this latest thing? Last week, Ram Dass comes out with this thing, says be here whenever. Yeah, you gotta be with it. You gotta be right with it. The kids aren't gonna listen to you if you are not talking their language. Fuck, shit, cocksucker, motherfucker. These are not words they use. These are words that we use. They were dirty to us. Today the words, the dirty words, where the dirty words are door. You know? Like, that's really a door, man. Where's the door? I don't know. It's all so confusing to me. You see, in the Army, it was different. In the Army, the word fuck was actually the way you got from word to word. Yeah, it was a connective, you know? Like a set of wheels from one word to the other. You know, chicka, 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 fuck, 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 fuck. If I get to this word, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, when you're talking about these sitting in the barracks, you know, the girls and I used to sit in the barracks. Listen, you know, you live the Army life your way, and I live mine, okay? So I didn't ask, they didn't tell. Anyway, yeah, so we were sitting around in the barracks, and we were talking. What were we talking about? I've forgotten. What was it? Oh gosh, I lost it again. Huh? Oh, fuck! Oh, that's so easy to forget! Oh, maybe not below the age of 62. But it's been an awfully long time since I remembered what it was, you know, all the fuss was about. Let's see. Oh, I'm not kidding. Listen, I was working as an airline pilot. You don't probably know this, but I was working once as an airline pilot. I was, and I went to a doctor. I didn't feel very good. I was kind of listless. I didn't feel very good. I went to the doctor, and the doctor says, well, let me just examine you. And he says, you know, I've seen situations like this before. I've seen cases like this where, you know, you're listless and stuff. He said, maybe a little sex would kind of get you energized a little bit. He says, when's the last time you got laid? I said, 1957. He says, well, for God's sakes, man, it's been a long time. I said, not really, it's only 2041 now. Yeah, so anyway, there I was, stripped to the waist, standing there in the shower room. And in the back, we're talking in the back, and we're kind of getting ready for the showers, and we're talking. And as we're talking, this whole fuck thing came up in a way. I don't mean in a nice way. Came up in a nice way. I mean, it's an erection joke, guys. I can't help it. If you don't get it, I'll have to explain it to you. You didn't get it. See, it came up. It's I don't have a say for that. I have no say, but I have a finish. Anyway, but I can't give you a ring, but I can give you a diploma.